Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play Suzerain. Let me get my timer started. So the last part we had a major political figure, well I say major, the MP for one of the independent parties, in this case specifically the Communist Party, was shot dead in front of our inauguration ball. And we received reports of a lot of national unrest between the communist and nationalists, basically their youth organizations, as well as Rumburg building up its forces along our border, which is not something I exactly want to hear. Arcasia develops the first ICBM. Recent intelligence briefings have spotlighted Arcasia's military progress, underscoring the successful completion of the Missile 4, an intercontinental ballistic missile of significant power and range. The Missile 4, with its estimated strike range spanning thousands of kilometers, represents a major leap in Arcasian military technology. Its precision targeting system allows for the destruction of targets at long distances, thereby escalating the potential threat Arcasia poses to territories well beyond the boundaries of Western Marcopa. Looks like nothing else in the regional map, so let's go back to the national map. What do we have here? Widespread protests, yep. Rise in Golkandism in rural regions of Bergia. Golkandism, a minor religious branch of, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, Nuridi, has gained a significant following in the city of Suzerain and the rural parts of Bergia, mainly due to limited access to education and employment opportunities. The sect offers a sense of community, purpose, and salvation, through strict adherence to its doctrines. British Freedom Front and foreign proselytizers are suspected to be behind the sudden increase in Golkandism. Many British political leaders are recruiting members through grassroots campaigns, making Golkandism one of the most popular religious groups in the region. However, officials fear that these sect's strict rules and practices may lead to social unrest, warranting further investigation and the development of strategies in collaboration with local community leaders to address the situation. Widespread protests up here as well. United Cantana Consulate helped protesters. Around midnight, Red Youth protesters clashed with young swords at the Vesord city center, resulting in many injuries. The counter-protesters were cornered in front of the United Cantana Consulate after they were pushed back by the police. The diplomatic mission to open its doors and Red Youth members escaped inside. The police are still waiting outside the building for the return of Red Youth members. Interesting. And then we have widespread protests here as well. Well, let's go and have dinner with the family at home. After a long day at the palace, I was finally home. I thanked Sergei and walked through the front gates, nodding at the two guards as I went by. Even as I turned the doorknob, I could hear Diana rushing down the stairs to greet me. I opened the door, and there she was, standing in front of me with expectant eyes. "Papa, you're home!" There's my beautiful princess. I lifted Diana up and hugged her while trying to put the keys in the tray next to the entrance. She was growing fast. Lifting her up was no longer as easy as it once was. How was school? Boring. I liked my old school better. I put her down and her expression turned serious. "Papa, are the bad men gone?" "Yes, your papa took care of everything." "Okay, Papa." Diana rushed down the hallway. "Mama, Papa's here." Monica appeared next to the kitchen door. She was wearing an apron and holding a spatula in her hand. "Diana, what did I tell you? No running in the house." "Yes, Mama." Monica approached me and kissed me on the cheek. A tantalizing smell wafted from the kitchen behind her. "How was your day, dear?" "Terrific. I finally got to do some grocery shopping, just like old times, and I'm making your favorite." "You mean?" "Yes, Lorsha." Lorsha was a Lochhaven specialty, usually reserved for special occasions, a rich seafood stew with a heady garlic and paprika kick. It was absolutely my favorite dish, especially paired with Kebij, a potent unfiltered wine from Bergia. Let's see. It's my lucky day. What's the occasion? No occasion. I just wanted to cheer everyone up a bit. Her smile faded and she lowered her voice so that Diana wouldn't hear, especially after what happened at the ball. I'm worried, Anton, for you, for the children, and for the country. Diana suddenly appeared next to us. Mama? Yes, sweetheart? I'm hungry. We'll eat in just a minute. Will you help me set the table? Anton, can you tell Frank to come down for dinner? He's been sulking in his room all day. Monica started taking out the plates while I headed upstairs to fetch my son. Loud rock and roll music echoed down the hallway from his room. I caught a faint hint of cigarette smoke. Let's knock on the door. There's no response. Knock again. Still no response. I yell, Frank, turn down that racket and open the door. Stereo in Frank's room clicked off. All right. He unlocked and opened the door. What do you want? Let's see. Turns his records up louder next time. One issue I don't think the neighbors heard. Food's ready. Great, I'm starving. Frank headed downstairs to the dinner room and I followed after. The table was prepared and Monica was ladling food onto the plates. Come on, have a seat. It won't be as tasty if it's cold. As we started eating, the room went quiet. Monica's cooking was delicious as ever, but I had a feeling that it wasn't the reason nobody spoke. Monica was the first to break the silence. Say, did you know that they refurbished the grocery store? I don't know if you remember the owner. He's been there every day for the past 30 years. Can you imagine doing the same job for so long? What if you were president for 20 years, for example? 20 years of this, I'd be dead. I realized my poor choice of words too late. Monica looked down at her plate. Anyway, the grocer really is a nice person. He threw in some extra vegetables with my... Frank suddenly slammed his hands on the table, rattling the plates. Monica, Diana, and I stared at him. So this is how it's going to be? We're just going to sit here like nothing happened? Dad, you could have been killed. Mom could have been killed. Any one of us could have died. Diana's lower lip started trembling. Monica put her hands on Frank's shoulder. Frank, you know I would never let anything happen to you or Diana, even if it cost me my life. I know, but still. Can you at least tell me if something's being done about it? It was real close, Dad. It was one rogue shooter. We were not even the target. But what if we were? Frank, listen to your father. If your father says we don't need to worry, then we don't need to worry. You have to trust him. Monica turned to me. We all have to trust each other. Things calmed down a bit at the table. We finished our food in silence. Frank got up and retreated back to his room. Monica lifted Diana up and plopped her in front of the living room TV before returning to the table. She sat down across from me. Anton, he's still young. I know, but there's not much longer we can shield him from the ugliness of the world. He's scared, Anton, and frankly, he isn't the only one. I promise, if there truly is any threat to this family, you'll be the first to know. She got up, stood behind me, and massaged my shoulders for a moment before leaving me alone in the dining room. I sat alone at the table and drained my glass of cabbage. Had I been lying to Frank and Diana? Was the threat to my family truly over? Time would tell. See, protests across Sordland, yep. Protest in Gruny, yep. Political chaos. NFP and Lusk call for protests of the labor union of Sordland. Okay. And then again, more articles talking about unrest in Sordland. See. Morella expresses condolences for Circus in the wake of Bernard Circus's untimely passing. Prime Minister Alma Sultana of Morella conveyed heartfelt condolences to the people of Sordland. The leader recognized Circus as an influential poet and advocate for Malyanivist's ideas, lamenting his loss as a blow to literary and political world. She called for the memorialization of Cercas's contribution to social discourse and reaffirmed Morella's commitment to the ideas he espoused. CSP faction spotlights workers' rights in reports, drawing international attention to the pressing issue of labor conditions. A faction within the Content and Security Pact has released an insightful report on workers' rights within its member nations, as the CSP, consisting primarily of planned economies, grapples with the growing capitalist influence of Arcasia and the ATO. This report underscores the need for robust labor protections in the world. The document provides a thorough analysis of workers' rights and labor conditions within CSP members nations spanning several continents. It asserts that these nations surpass the global standard with an average minimum wage 45% higher and industrial sector unionization rate at an impressive 95%. However, it also calls for action on on issues such as the gender wage gap averaging 12% within CSP nations. The report concludes by advocating for broader enforcement of rigorous labor laws, embodying the CSP's commitment to social and political justice. The CSP's stance on workers' rights offers a strong counter-narrative to the ATO's capitalist orientations, emphasizing the alliance's commitment to socio-economic equality. Let's see, we can react to the unrest, a decision to address the instability in the nation. This I actually don't know at all what our options are like here. Okay, so yeah, we can call for restraint on national television. This slightly increases diplomatic and public opinion and decreasing country unrest a little. We can visit affected towns in person. This does a similar thing. While it increases public opinion a little bit more than the other option. Still only changes unrest by 1, but it also makes the British people a bit happier. And then, of course, we have options. The other two are just straight up all negatives, really. They increase unrest, decrease public opinion, all that jazz. So, yeah. Let's go with the obviously good option of visiting affected towns in person. President Rain talks to protesters. President Anton Rain visited towns around Greater Halsard and Gruni regions, which were heavily affected by the protests and riots that popped up around the country. Triggered by the death of Cercas, he was seen talking to the protesters and listening to the concerns of the citizens. This sends a powerful message to Swordish citizens that the government is willing or is walking among them and listening to their problems. Halsard is desperately trying to restart Sordland's economy after the recession, and this political unrest is not helping, said a Swordish scholar and a professor of law at Halsard University in Halsard. I'm sorry, I just find it silly that you have to specifically mention that it is the Halsard State University in Halsard. Yes, it's called the Halsard State University for a reason. I mean, sure, you might have campuses at the other parts, I guess, technically speaking, within the region. So you do have to do that. But as far as we know, they don't have, satellite campuses at the other places. As far as we know, they only have the one in Halsard. So in theory, you could just say it's the Halsard State University. You do not need to specify that it's in Halsard. But let's go ahead and end the day at the Maroon Palace. It was late in the evening. The Maroon Palace was finally getting somewhat quiet when I returned to my office at the top. I eagerly approached my chair and sprawled out on it. It had been an exhausting day, just like every day since I took office. Let's just lean back and relax for a little bit. I stretched out my arms, leaned back in my chair, and took a deep breath. Halsard's skyline was daunting, but beautiful. I glanced downwards out the window and saw Sergei and the guards waiting for me by the main gate. I heard a couple of knocks on the door. My secretary, Livia Suna, entered. Mr. President, Mr. Tusk is here to see you. You had a meeting with the Lothburg spokesman. I'm so sorry for not giving you proper notice. Don't worry about it. Thank you for your understanding. After a moment, Mr. Tusk swaggered into the room. I'd met Sordland's most prominent businessman once or twice, but never alone. He had large jaws, blinding shiny shoes, and the air of someone who is used to getting his way. Anything to drink, Mr. Tusk? Water? Whiskey? Cognac, preferably from before you were born, sweetheart. I'll check the supply room. Livia backed out of the office, shooting me an apologetic look as she did so. Walter hung up his hat, which I could see was lined with mink. He fixed me with a long, hard stare, then broke into a toothy grin. Good evening, Mr. President. I'm here to congratulate you. My business partners and I wish you a successful term as the leader of our nation. It's kind of hard to trust you, dude. It really is. I'm just gonna say it. Well, thank you, Mr. Tusk. I had no chance to say this at the ball with all the panic, but we are very much looking forward to working with you. Likewise. I'd like to build a profitable relationship between us. That being said, there are some concerns of mine and the people I represent, which I would like to take this opportunity to clear up. Oh, what are these concerns? The ruined state of the economy in Sordland has influenced everyone. The recession hit all of us hard. Walter pulled out a box of cigars from his jacket. I had these brought from Lispia, the best cigars in the whole continent. Would you like to try one? Sure, we'll try one. I grabbed one out of the pack. Walter lit it up with his large engraved lighter. Now we're talking business, a man who knows pleasure and business. Walter grabbed himself a cigar and lit it up as well. We looked out at the city scenery as we both puffed away. I heard that you purchased stock from the Armadine Industries in Arcasia. Smart buy. They are developing new gadgets that are going to be profitable. With risk comes reward. I expect a very good return on investment. You have a keen eye for business. I will buy a couple of thousand of shares too to expand my portfolio. Hope the investments pay off for both of us, President. His eyes wandered away for a moment. You are having a good start to the term for sure, besides the recent troubles. I'm glad that you have decided to promote the free market, which is the only thing that can get us out of this mess. Let's see. We had nothing but trouble so far, and economy is not the only concern. Economy is always the biggest concern, President, whether we like it or not. He grinned. The highway investment was a good call, but there was more to gain in the high-speed rail, especially for business logistics. Well, yeah, but the Aglin region was in dire need of investments. The most important goal is divert investments where most profits can be made for the Treasury. We can be close allies. The group can help you get Sordland out of the recession, which will be the key problem to solve in your term and could even determine your re-election. Let's start with a gesture of goodwill. Soon the investment project contracts will be awarded to one of three main contenders. He pulled a check out of his pocket and slid it towards me on the table. My personal bank details were listed on it with a deposit of 500,000 Sordish Ren ready to be transferred. This was 6 months of a president's salary. If the contract were somehow awarded to Underhall Construction, they would not only work hard and deliver, but also do it on time. What do you think, Mr. Rain? Wouldn't that be good? He put his index finger on the check. There was a noise by the door. Livia Suno was standing there holding a tray with a bottle and 2 glasses. I'm so sorry, Mr. Tusk. All I could find was a 1942 Sevgeny. I hope that's acceptable. She quickly put the tray on my desk and walked out. Tusk eyed her as she left. Remind me to visit your office more often. Now, where were we? Do we have a deal? Now this is something that I actually don't really know when it comes to decision making. So we can take it. Now, granted, it should be noted, part of this at the end of the day is also that we're probably going to be picking them anyway. So we can benefit from it as a result. Like there really is just no reason not to take it in a sense, because we're just gonna be doing it anyway, really. I'm sure there's gonna be a downside to taking it, realistically. This will increase our personal wealth. I don't know by how much, though. It's probably just like 1 point or something. Indeed, Mr. Tusk, I'm looking forward to our future transactions. You don't have to wait long, Mr. Rain. As a gesture of faith in our newfound partnership, I'll invite you to a special meeting in the future. He grinned and let out a laugh. The check was right between his hands. He pulled his hand back and I took the check. This deal also aligns with the free market strategy your government has adopted besides boosting further investment. I am very happy we came to an agreement today, Mr. Tusk. Likewise, President Rain. It was a pleasure doing business with you. Oh, and before I forget, a final token of my gratitude. Walter pulls a box of cigars out of his pocket. The label reads Varo Benvenuto. Some of Lespia's finest, made by true craftsmen in the fabled city of San Verlon. You should visit someday should the opportunity arise. We will be in touch. Walter stood up, grabbed his jacket, and shook my hand before making his way towards the door. He smiled before closing the door and leaving. I gathered my things and prepared to finally head home. As I walked out, I noticed Livia still there, covering up her typewriter for the evening. If I may be so bold, Mr. President, did you accept his offer? As a matter of fact, I did. What of it? Are you sure it was a good idea? You've just given him leverage over you that he can use for the rest of your time in office. A valid concern, but I've made my decision. She and I took a moment to look out over the lights of the city before heading to the elevators. Foreign gas engineers' salaries under scrutiny. Recent revelations about the salary disparities with Gasom, one of Sordland's largest corporations, have sparked public interest. Particularly, it has been revealed that foreign engineers, many hailing from Quanal and Anraka, earn significantly higher wages compared to their Sordish counterparts in other companies. This disparity highlights the challenges Sordish engineers face in an increasingly globalized job market. Okay, yep, nope, he wants to expand executive power. That's not surprising that the right-wing guy wants to do that. List calls for corporate responsibility in Narbel. He made a strong call for corporate social responsibility in Narbel, and as income inequality and public service deficiencies exacerbate, LUS demands local corporations step up to aid the community. It is time corporations prioritize people over profits, said Horton in a public statement. It's not just the state's duty to arrange welfare budgets, but a shared responsibility. Reform demands gain popularity. Workers' Party Solidarity March. The pro-minority Workers' Party of Bludia rally in the Bludish majority city of again. Bludish citizens targeted by a group of people suspected to be members of the Young Swords. Not surprising. God, Narbel is garbage. The Ministry of Defense reports that the situation along the border is getting tense. Rumberg's Southern Army was spotted training close to our borders and did not respond after we issued a radio message. The Chief of the Armed Forces, General Kruger, reports to have increased patrolling duties along the northern border to signal readiness. Okay, yep, protests there. Protests here. Local police working with nationalists. Shocker. One of our agents, acting as a Young Swords member, had an encounter with two members of local police force in Enrica, Alson Bowler and Vic Neiser. According to the report, the policeman tried to bribe the agent to burn down a store that belongs to a known Communist Party member and to instigate further violence. We have detained the policeman on charges of corruption. We have things out here. Pales issues warning over Riesian actions. In a formal address, Grand Duke Axel Reinhardt of Pales issued a cautionary statement regarding recent Riesian activities. The Grand Duke expressed increasing concerns over the intensifying border disputes and clashes over territorial waters and gas fields. Asserting Pales' sovereignty, he called for respect for international law and peaceful dialogue to prevent further escalation. He urged the Alliance of Nations to mediate the situation, emphasizing the potential risks that these tensions could pose to regional stability. Well, let's see. So, economic relief plan. With the assistance of the National Business Council and the Central Bank, Simon Hall put forward a countrywide relief plan to mitigate the economic hardships that are being felt. We can either provide stimulus checks for people in need or bail out businesses under serious financial strain, or decide not to approve the plan at all. So let's just kind of give a quick glance over it. So we provide stimulus checks for people in need, decreases our government budget by 2, it decreases unrest by 1, the communist opinion improves by 2, public opinion improves by 1, and the British opinion also improves by 1. We can bail out businesses. Again, decreases the government budget by 2, upsets the communists by 2, makes the capitalists happier by 1, and decreases public opinion. Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's kind of a... As per usual, it seems pretty obvious that the checks for people in need, it seems like it's the better option compared to bailing out the businesses. So we'll provide stimulus checks for people in need. So stimulus checks distributed. The government's provision of stimulus checks to citizens in need has been a crucial lifeline for many struggling families, helping them pay for necessities such as food and rent. The relief effort has positively impacted millions of people across Sordland, providing them with the financial support they require to make ends meet. See, the administration has fallen for populism and the idea that giving people money will solve the problems of the economy overall. It is hard to grasp where these ideas come from, especially when long-term job growth and employment is what this country needs to secure in order to have a stable economy. What is the plan here? People will be able to pay their rent for a few months, and then they will fall into the same unemployment trap due to a lack of job availability or security. The businesses can't carry all the weight of the declining economy on their own shoulders and employ people without help from the government. And then Radical is talking about help coming at last because of that. Let's head over here and finalize the H3 highway contract. After a lengthy drive on cliffside roads, we arrive in Lenkirk. There, crowds of cheering citizens greeted us and the local government officials escorted us to the city hall. We were here for a significant meeting with about the H3 project. Several construction companies sent their representatives to the city hall. Gus Manger couldn't make the meeting due to his visit to Riesia, but I had Simon Hall and Leas Graff by my side. Besides starting our economic recovery, this project will cut the time it takes to get here by road in half, Mr. President. More importantly, it will lead to improvements in England. I have lived with these people and seen them suffer. I trust your plan, Simon. I'm glad to hear that. We should be able to slow down the recession if we finish this project successfully. I look forward to a positive financial outcome. According to my sources, we'll lift many people in these areas out of poverty. What kind of end results do we expect? short-term employment and long-term economic development in the Nargis and Angland regions. The underdeveloped cities of Lenkirk and Arvry will receive a lot more investment after this. Simon searched through the documents he was holding and found the one he was looking for. I have the overview of the companies here. Simon handed the files over to me. Well, let's look at them. I looked at the files. 3 companies were listed: the Sordland State Corporation, Underhall Construction, and Taurus Holding. I reviewed them. I also took the liberty of asking the mayor of Arvry to give his opinion on the matter. Which corporation should we talk about? Let's start with the Sordland State Corporation. The respected Sordland State Corporation, also known as the SSC, was founded in 1891. It is the main state corporation tasked with running the day-to-day construction services of our country. The SSC is one of our most trusted and honorable companies. They have served us a long time. I have worked with them on several occasions. It goes against our election promises of moving away from a state-planned economy. Most importantly, the Sordland State Corporation uses outdated methods, resulting in slower construction. A simple look at the regional highways shows us the problem. They do have a wealth of knowledge and infrastructure. I don't agree with your negative statement, Simon. The SSC's record clearly shows completed contracts with thousands of employees who have more than 20 years of experience. According to the preliminary calculations of the SSC, they would need more resources to finish a project of this size. I'm on the fence about the SSC. Underhall Construction. The real estate and construction giant was founded in 1925 and expanded during the economic boom of the 30s. Picking this corporation would fit our market economy policy. The CEO of Underhall is Chris Shar, the mayor of Conriat. He sold half of his shares a few years ago. I had to work with Underhall Construction before in Hallstar. They accepted several contracts for the renovation of our central station and left much to be desired. The HD project shouldn't be left to them. How was your experience with them? Out of all 3, this is the company I trust the least. They seem to fail at respecting the contract terms of their workers. They're likely to cause trouble. I'm not too sure about trusting them with the contract, but at least they have worked on several mega projects and always delivered on them. And working conditions must be respected. This doesn't inspire confidence. I agree. The workers were undocumented Agnolian and Wezek immigrants with no papers, a clear violation of our laws. According to them, the tight completion schedule necessitated such bad labor conditions, which still doesn't justify the situation. Underhall has specifically mentioned their solid track record and highlighted that they do anticipate to go over budget, but that the project will be finished on time. Underhall seems interesting, but let's hear about the others. Taurus Holding. Taurus Holding was founded in 1946 and is owned by the entrepreneur Garrett Feiss. It is a new company whose subsidiaries use cutting-edge technology from Arcasia to reduce construction costs and prices. They're known to provide for their workers who are members of, or who are part of the labor union of Sordland. There are other things Taurus does very well, like providing consultants for state corporations, but I can't vouch for their infrastructure construction at all. Why should we pick Taurus? It would fit our election promises of switching to a free market economy. Awarding contracts to privately owned corporations would be a step in the right direction. Taurus has completed fewer projects than the other companies, however they are slightly faster and cheaper. It won several awards internationally for being one of the fastest growing and advanced companies. Interesting. The innovative aspect is refreshing, especially if they can deliver. They were only involved in smaller scale regional projects. This does improve their capabilities for larger undertakings that are more complex. The project manager for Taurus Holding mentioned that they would be able to finish the project with the allocated funding. They are the only company who found the budget sufficient, making them a cheaper alternative. Interesting. Interesting. Now, I know we took the bribe to, choose Underhall. But realistically, I think we're going to go and pick Taurus Holdings. Good that we are staying consistent to our economic strategy. Simon signed a certain section of the dossier and fixed his glasses. Some of the Lothburg group won't like this, but the contract will be awarded to Taurus Holding. I wish the outcome of this meeting was different, but at the end of the day, the success of the project is what matters. The company will be notified today, and construction work will begin immediately after. I think we're off to a good start. My expectations are that the grand opening ceremony will happen late next year. I'd better get back to work then. Thank you. This concludes the meeting. The meeting ended and we spent the remainder of the day attending events in Lenkirk. It was nice to enjoy the natural beauty of England and to eat some good fish. So construction begins. And the government has announced a new mega infrastructure project to help alleviate the symptoms of the recession, when the Minister of Economy announced the launch of one of the most contested construction projects in Sordland, a new highway from Lochhaven to Agnolia, or to the Agnolian capital Stallport. He said this project will cross the poorest areas of Sordland, developing the region, improving foreign trade, and increasing access to employment. The contract for the project was given to an inexperienced company named Taurus Holding, with the decision of the president. Mega projects such as the construction of ports, transport lines, including railways and motorways, and power plants typically cost billions of SR. They are difficult to manage due to their scale, high levels of complexity, and substantial impact on communities, the environment, and state governments. The decision of such a vital project to be given to a company like Taurus should not have been taken so easily, as they lacked large-scale experience and the organizational capacity to complete such a big task. Ireland has long been neglected as a region and was in need of serious investments in its infrastructure. While this is positive news, it is doubtful that this project was worth the money and time that it will consume. I don't agree, but we shall see. Meeting with Marcel Coranti, and then that's probably going to be it for this part. Our motorcade headed to the meeting location sent by Marcel Coranti. I had only my most confidential and trustworthy team members with me. After a few hours of driving along River Eskel, we took a turn before entering Conriat. The darkness started setting in as we drove up to a hill. Where are we, Sergei? We are near the HOS Country Club, Mr. President. We'll be there shortly. We arrived and the big iron gates of the country club opened. It was huge and outright extravagant. The main building, inspired by Lisbian architecture, was illuminated from all sides. It was rather chilly. I was approached by Peter Vectorn and Lucien Galde. I hoped the journey was comfortable. The location is very remote indeed. It's a very exclusive country club for people who value their privacy. After opening the marble-engraved wooden door, we were greeted by two tall women. The receptionists led us to the meeting room upstairs. Marcel was standing by the window, looking outside at the beautiful complex. He turned around to have a quick look at us both. He was a strikingly handsome man with well-groomed hair. He walked towards me with his hand reached out for a handshake. I shook his hand. He had a firm grip. It is such a pleasure to meet you in person, Mr. Coranti. I appreciate your efforts to reach out and establish a mutually beneficial friendship. Thanks for hosting us. I admired your father very much. May he rest in peace. Welcome. Your kind words have touched me, Mr. Vice President. He was indeed a great man. May he rest in peace. He was a true entrepreneur. He would have been very happy to hear this from you, Mr. President. It's time to look forward. Let us talk about our bright future. Yes, there is much to discuss. Believe it or not, I have been a secret admirer of your political success. I find your quick rise to power was shockingly well executed. I would not be standing here if I was bad at what I do. Marcel gently pointed at the seats. We sat down around a gigantic table. Before speaking, he knocked on wood. The past months have been tumultuous, to say the least. I am glad you and your family were unharmed at the shooting. The whole incident must have been a shock for the kids. They aren't used to what we lived through back in the late 20s. I still remember when my father took us out of the country when it became too dangerous in Conriat. They were startled, but the important thing is they are safe and sound. Of course, that is all that matters. No family should suffer from tragedy ever again. We had enough of that. Well, I am known to be a straightforward person, so let me get to the point without wasting your valuable time. It was during the Alfonso campaign when I was struck by what you have done within the party. Marcel started to look at one of the paintings of the wall. Look at the painting. I observed the painting, the famous piece depicting a giant sleeping beneath a village. The forest, the trees, rivers, and hills were all part of the giant's body. Its eyes were two caves looking up at the people. It showed daylight at the far left and nighttime at the far right. The giant seemed to be watching the villagers. It was totally unbeknownst to the villagers. Marcel pointed his finger at me. You said we will transform this nation, Mr. Rain. My conglomerate has a way of doing things, and I don't want them to change. So I want to cooperate with you. Cooperate? You might have the people's support now, Mr. President, but what happens when you make mistakes? Everybody makes mistakes. What is that supposed to mean? Let's hear his point, Vice President. Being a president in this country means having many enemies that would resort to anything to bring you down. Let's say these enemies caused a scandal or leaked sensitive information from the administration. These would be destructive when they were released. If they were released. I see what you're getting at. You knew that a long time before you came here. Let's hear your offer. I want two things, Mr. President. Number one is a guarantee from you that the Rain administration won't meddle in HOS affairs no matter what happens. Number two is a simple gentleman's favor for the future. Let me prove my services to you, and I'm sure you won't disapprove when the time comes. How do I know that I can trust you? My circle advised against this. They don't even know we are meeting, Mr. President. We both put ourselves at risk here, but I am willing to trust you. The question is, are you willing to trust me and accept this offer? Let's see. Well, what do you think about this, Lucien? Lucien leaned to my ears and whispered, I think it is a good deal. He is right. We will need the media support. With his newspapers and channels on our side, we can dodge a lot of bullets. The one thing that bothers me, though, is his favor request. We do not know what it is, and he could ask for something that could point fingers at us. Marcel interrupted us. So, do we have a deal? We have a deal. Happy to hear that. You can contact me personally through this number. As soon as you know that a story against you will break, please call me and it will be taken care of. I hope you will uphold your end of the bargain as well. As long as you do. You can count on me. We'll meet again. Goodbye. I thank you for your time, Mr. Caranti. Let's head back to Halsard. So we have media bias. The media in Sordland is facing a significant challenge due to the organized interference from both the state and private organizations. This interference has been aimed at controlling the narrative and shaping public opinion in favor of specific agendas. Now, we could go ahead and, I got less than 2 minutes on the clock, so I think we're just going to go ahead and end this part here because it's easier. Oh, what's this? Kasara Kimnir demands emergency to be called. The leader of the NFP, Kasara Kimnir, has demanded an emergency be called to address the increasing political violence in the country. He stated that without a declaration of emergency, Sordland would be destabilized and the integrity of the country would be damaged even further. As I was saying, we could go ahead and attend the funeral of Bernard Circos, but like I said, I got less than 2 minutes on the clock. In fact, we're about to go down to less than 1 minute left. So we're going to go ahead and end this part here. I will see you all next time, where we will be, attending Bernard Circos' funeral and doing other stuff that happens after that. I don't know exactly off the top of my head what all of the options are going to be for that. Let's go ahead and quickly click through all these because apparently some of these are marked as having new information, but they don't actually have new information. It's just the widespread protest, flag basically being added to them. And some of them I guess we hadn't looked at yet. Okay, there we go. But yeah, so I'll see you all next time. Until then, goodbye and farewell.